All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In. Mitch Michals from the Santa Monica Studios, home to Tennis Channel podcast. It's available on all your favorite platforms as we're into the post-Wimbledon grind. But there's a lot to discuss, a lot in the tennis calendar. And special guest with me now that I've been circling for a while. He's no stranger to my sports fanhood, but also to the sports world in general. Made a name for himself as a four-year starter for Ohio State, a member of their 2002 National Championship team, NFL alum, a host of the Big Afternoon Drive show for WKRK, FM 92.3 in Cleveland, Ohio. Dustin Fox, welcome to the show. He's a newfound and really renewed tennis passionate guy. So that's why we're going to talk and have a little fun here on the show. But Dustin, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me, Mitch. It's good to be here. Good to be talking some tennis and not talking to people that are kind of annoyed by it. So it's cool.
We're going to get into all the tennis stuff, and I know your background and everything is so exciting. You got the U.S. Open gear on, so this is a real
I had to wear it
tennis
for
fan.
you guys, man. Come on.
This is somebody that knows his stuff for sure. Your background in particular, and I'm going to weave it all in together, but
Sure.
growing up in my native city as well, Cleveland, Ohio, you grew up in Canton, played for Glen Oak in football, but before that, I would assume based on your lineage and based on who you had in your family and how active you were as a kid, that you were just the active family, and I would assume just someone that wanted to get out there, play as many sports as possible.
It's funny. Growing up, I probably didn't play as many sports as people thought. I was kind of like my son is now. I've got an 11-year-old son, and he's like super into video games and hanging out with his friends, and not really. I mean, he's into football, but like not like diehard into it, where he's eating it and breathing it and sleeping it. But I was very similar. And then, as I got a little bit older, my older brother played college football at Penn State and then played a little bit in the NFL. So I sort of looked up to him. And then by the time I got to become like a freshman in high school, things started to click athletically. And I don't know, it's just kind of crazy how the genes just kind of took over, and started playing hoops, ran track, played football, obviously. And football led me to my career of, playing football professionally. And then, of course, getting into broadcasting, which is where I'm at now and have been for the last 13 years.
Yeah, one of the things I like to talk to with tennis players too, especially, and you can relate to this as a football player. You excel, basically dominate in high school. You get to college and then eventually the NFL. But when you got to college and you got to Columbus for that first time, did you really experience like this is a level up? Like we're swimming with some bigger fish here, some sharks here now.
It's interesting. When I got to college, it was not quite as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. But I'll say this much. When I got to the NFL, that was a different animal. Like going from, like people think, playing at Ohio State or playing in the Big Ten or whatever, is like playing in the NFL, because everybody you play against is an NFL type player, And I got to tell you, it's so far from the truth. I mean, when I got to the league, and I remember my rookie mini camp, just stepping on the field as a rookie, and they threw me out there against the ones. This is when I was playing for the Vikings, and I'm like, holy cow! I felt like my feet were in cement shoes, and it was just so much faster than it was in college. Not that the players were any bigger, or even that much stronger, frankly, but it was just the speed of the game was so much faster than anything I'd seen to that point.
Yeah, there is a lot to be learned from that, and that you get to the highest level, you get to the point where everybody is the very best, and it's tough and it can be overwhelming. And I know I mentioned that 2002 National Championship team, a team that I followed pretty closely. You guys won 14 games. You were the last team standing. And another question I asked the tennis players, did you notice anything special about that run? Because on the outside, well, as it was happening, I should say, on the outside, there was a lot of close games. There was a lot of, as we see in individual sports, there can be close matches. But did you guys know in that locker room that you had something special before you really started to win those final games?
Yeah, I think we did. Probably wasn't till that Purdue game, though, late in the year, where we were trailing in the fourth quarter, and basically took a kind of a miracle to win that game 10-6 on a 4th and 1 Hail Mary. They call it the Holy Buckeye play because of the great Brent Musburger, who had the call for ABC that day. It was pretty special, and that was one game where I think I remember being on the sidelines and kind of looking around some of my teammates and saying, boy, man, we're going to win this game. And like we're not going to lose this year because everything just continues to go our way every single time. And boy, it went that way in the Illinois game late in the year, went that way against Michigan, certainly went that way against the Hurricanes in the national championship. So yeah, I would say like, like early November and Jim Tressel always used to talk to us about how, you know, um, November is for contenders, and that's when you have to really, you know, uh, make your hay, and we did that year specifically, and yeah, I think there was a special vibe to it, and you compared it to tennis. I think it's a great comparison, and really maybe all
Yeah.
sports that when you're having one of those magical runs, you just ride the wave. I mean, like Danielle Collins, there's an example, like riding that wave, you know what I mean? Final year and just kind of like it, you just feel like you can't be beat. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where we were that year.
Danielle Collins is a good example, and you made me think of something for the first time. It's kind of like being a senior in college, right? Her last year.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
last stop. She's going to all these tournaments for the very last time. There's
Hmm.
some clarity. People think about pressure, but it can go the other way when you're just free of all, worry that, okay, this is it. I got one last shot at this. Let's just go out and put my best foot forward.
100%. I wish I'd had that in my career, playing career, where I actually sort of got to dictate like when I was done. Further from the truth, couldn't be further from the truth, I should say. It's tough, man, and she's doing it on her terms, and it's pretty cool to see. And you're right. I think the pressure is sort of relieved in that moment where you're like, you know what do I have to lose? I've given my life to this, and the preparation's there, and just go out and play. And once you sort of take the mental approach out of it, or the, I always think too, like when I play tennis, it's not necessarily the opponent across from you. It's more so, battling yourself. And when you
Hmm.
can sort of eliminate that, or at least quiet it, then you can have some results.
Another tie-in to Dustin with that Ohio State team that won the title with all those close games in a singles run. A lot of runs for Grand Slam champions have involved them saving a match point or
Sure.
having to dig deep and win maybe an early match. There's something that happens. We talk about it at work all the time. When you get through that, it's like you're hyper focused. You've avoided the pitfall that might be the only one. And a lot of times those players, just like you said, ride the wave and keep it going.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, I can't tell you how many matches we've seen. In fact, I thought, watching that Wimbledon final when Djokovic saved those 3 match points right on Alcaraz's serve, and then another one in the tiebreak. But I mean, like, still, I thought if he wins that set, you dude never know, right? And obviously Alcaraz closed it out, but it was one of those things. I'm sure you were thinking the same thing. Oh boy, don't let him get just one, and he nearly did.
Yeah, and I've always thought too, it's interesting with former athletes, right? Like not every former athlete has the chops to make it in media, but if they do, and if they have those gifts, one of the biggest advantages they have is the fearlessness, the ability to put themselves out there, to know what it's like to kind of, the stakes are a little less, but to play for stakes, they're not really worried or intimidated in that regard. So if they have, in your case, and if they have that ability and the ability to talk and tell good stories and provide good analysis, they almost treat it like a sporting event where they're out there and they're back competing again.
Oh, it is for me, 100%. And I would say this much, I do college football games for ESPN in the fall, and we're approaching that season. I'm looking forward to getting out there. But that to me, is more like football than really anything that I've done since I've got done playing. You prepare for a game, you have coaches meetings, just like you would if you were a player, and then you go to the game on Saturday and you call the game, and hopefully you do a really good job and you're prepared. It feels good. And that is something that sort of fills that void for me of that dopamine hit, right? Of playing a game and getting back in the action. I certainly couldn't do that at my age, but I can get on TV and I can still talk about the game I love.
Some more with Dustin Fox here on Tennis Channel Inside In, former NFL player, current radio host, Cleveland, Ohio, the afternoon drive show for 92.3 The Fan. And let's get into it right now. I mean, tennis has kind of been your new passion. As a player, when did you start actively competing in tennis? When did you discover it? When did you fall in love with it? When did you, as I've seen from all the club championships you play in and win, when did you devote yourself to the game?
So I probably picked up a racket for the first time Well, obviously, I played a little, like, you hit your tennis balls as a kid. You didn't know what you're doing. But probably the first time since I was a kid, when I was 35 years old, which is about 6 years ago. And I just I just wanted something to do with my buddy to work out, like an auxiliary workout to lifting weights every day and trying to find something fun to do for cardio. And that was when I started playing some tennis, like once a week, maybe just hitting around. We didn't know what we were doing, just a racket and a hopper full of balls, and go out there and figure it out, right? And a couple years later, I was just doing that, like hitting around a little bit for a couple of years.
I guess one question about your specific tennis. How would you describe your game? How you play? What type of game have you developed over the last 6 years?
I would say I'm a 4-0 net player and a 3-0 everything else. If that makes sense.
So net play.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I'm a net player.
I don't think many people would say that.
Oh well, I'm like almost 6 foot, but I can still jump really high. Because like back when I played, my vertical was like 43 and a half inches, so I can still get up a little bit. And I'm long. Like I've got long arms. That's why they drafted me to play corner, because I could get the long arms on a receiver. Well, a long arm helps at the net, right? I mean, I've got a tremendous reach, both ways, and then it's tough to lob over me. So I think it's the strength of my game. Very average serve, a flat serve. I got a forehand that sucks. I have a great two-handed backhand. I got some junk with some drop shot stuff, but I really have no forehand and can't figure that out. But that's why I love the net, because I just eat at the net.
I know. I mean, it's just shocking because most club players would say forehand's their game. I mean, even when Kirk Cousins was out the Hall of Fame, I think it was 2 years ago, I asked someone who was there who got to hit balls with him. He said, "Oh, Kirk's solid, all forehand though," and that's just usually the knock on players that get to a certain point. But no, I think it's pretty cool, and I know doubles is part of. You get that camaraderie.
I am a doubles player, like, to the day I die. I'll play singles. I play on like 3 different USTA teams, and they ask me, "What do you?" I'm like, "Please doubles, please." I mean, I'll play singles if we're in a pinch, but I'm not a singles player. I do not want to rally at the baseline. And if I play singles, trust me, I'm a serve and volley kind of guy, and I'm going to come to the net as soon as possible and create shorter points.
I like it. I like that approach too. There's maybe not as much in pro tennis today, but in the past, it's like a throwback to the.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of which, Dustin, who do you have as favorite players that you like to watch? Who has really captivated you? I know there's some top players that a lot of people would say, but I have a feeling there might be some players not ranked in the top 10, top 20 even, that maybe have caught your eye.
Man, I watch so much tennis that, I mean, there's probably not a player in the top 100 to 150 that I haven't watched at some point play. And I just respect everyone's game, and there's so many players out there that I watch, and they may not even be like the best players. There's a couple guys that come to mind. It'll come to me in a minute. But I mean, I like some of the older guys like Monfils and Stan the Man, like watching those guys. They used to be top players, but like they're not anymore, but they're still fun to watch. I love all the top players that you see. I mean, the greats, the Roger, Nadals, the Djokovic's, those guys are amazing. But I do like the new crop of young players, and it's good to see American tennis sort of pick up a little bit here. I think with Taylor and with Tommy kind of in Tiafo doing such a great job, and you throw in a guy like Sebastian Corda, and I'm sure there's a couple others that I'm forgetting right now, but I mean, Thompson had a run, and then just won, almost won the doubles championship, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys. I'm just, my mind is killing me right now. I just, what's funny, man, is I just watched a match today at Newport, and one of my favorite players is Benoit Paris.
Oh yeah,
however you say his last name, yeah. The Frenchman. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I like to watch their games, man.
thought you might say Bublik in there too. He's another one that gets
I'm a
brought up a
Bublik
lot.
guy, but I mean, if I'm betting, it depends. It sucks because the guy can just get on a roll, or decide to underarm serve for like a set and get
Yeah.
bageled or breadstick. Like that guy is a character. I mean, he and Kyrgios. It's no wonder those two like each other and get along because they're both whack jobs. But I love them. I love their games, and I think part of what makes them good on the court is their craziness, their attitude, how they approach the game. So yeah.
Right. And I knew that you were really into this when I saw you live tweeting one of the matches of Roland Garros that not as many people, unless the diehards. I mean, the diehards know it. It was that Holger Rune
Oh
Cavalli
yeah.
match. It was just absurd. Because Holger's another one where he puts it on, he wants to be in this new big three, and we hope he gets there, but clearly it's not where he's at right now. But I think at a certain point, you have to have that confidence. It's like similar to any sport, but you have to believe that you're going to win and you're good enough to beat anyone, or these top players will literally eat you alive out there. So I appreciate the bravado, and I hope he does get there one day.
Yeah, I mean, I like Holger. I didn't like him at first, but he's kind of grown on me a little bit. I always thought he was kind of a baby the way he acted on the court. But I've come to just respect his game so much, and he's so athletic. I'll tell you, it was so funny though, man. Like, remember when Medvedev was doing the impersonation of him with the shorts?
Yeah.
Pulling up the shorts and stuff. I thought that was funny because he does that all the time. But no, I've become more of a Holger fan throughout everything. I mean, some of these top guys are hard to not like. I think there are a few that have some rough edges that make you kind of rub you the wrong way a little bit. I think Fritz has a little bit of that. I mean, if you watched Breakpoint, obviously you watch Breakpoint, but I mean, for the folks out there, you could see him in that. It's interesting, these guys, and you watch them play, and then you kind of wonder like what they're like off the court. I thought that show did a nice job kind of taking you inside a little bit of their personalities, because we know the greats. Like, we know what Roger's like, we know what Novak's like, and we know what Rafa's like. We hear them talk all the time, but some of these other guys, especially the up and comers, you don't know enough about, or know really sometimes anything about these guys until they start winning consistently on tour.
Yeah, this is an interesting time in tennis for sure. And also because he's the man of the hour, Alcaraz is going to get, as I know you've heard, a Netflix documentary. They've already been chronicalizing his season this year. So what a year to pick for him. But I wonder now going forward, I mean, Sinner's going to have to step up, but 4 slams, age 21. I mean, this is, he's on the path. He's got a long way to go, but he is on the path, and he is just completely eviscerating the competition around him.
I thought of the player I was thinking of, who I like to watch play. He's from France, Moutet.
Moutet, oh yeah, we got
Just
some
a
Moutet fans.
Kind of a random player, but like super crafty and fast, and the fans love him when they do the Moutet. It's I
in
love
France, but maybe not everywhere else.
Maybe not everywhere, yeah, but in France for sure.
No, I just think we're looking at a time in tennis where the Wimbledon final that we just came off of felt like a true changing of the guard. We'll see. I mean, Novak's not done by any stretch, but the stage of his career, like any great athlete, it's tough when you're not number one anymore, when you're 2 or 3 or 3 to 7 or 7 to 12. How long are those guys, those all-time greats, going to want to stick around and play? We know that some, like Andy Murray, just the love of the game until his body literally could not hold up. But some players have earned the right to say, you know what, this is enough for me. I've won. I've established my legacy. I just don't feel like losing, and that's okay too.
That's not Novak. I think Novak just rides this thing until he can't, because I mean, he'll still be really good, and can still get in the heads. His mental game, like that dude, I think can play till he's 50 if he wanted to, and he'd be able to beat the crap out of these kids. I mean, not like the Alcarazes of the world, but like, some of these other, like he'd still get to, quarterfinals maybe, late in his career.
It's a good point, because I've talked to a few people about Djokovic. Jim Courier here, fellow Hall of Famer. Djokovic will obviously be a Hall of Famer. I love
Courier. Tell Courier that he's got a fan here in Ohio.
He's the best. He's a super nice guy too. But he was one of the first people that was like, Djokovic is going to go the Tom Brady route. He wants to play as long as he can. It's everything about him is preserving his body for the longest careers possible. And he knows that. He wants to be the guy that I played longer than anyone. So I'm with you there. It's just going to be weird to see now with Alcaraz. And we'll see if Sinner, I mean, Wimbledon didn't go his way. I have to give props to Medvedev because I don't think enough people like those were the two lasting images for me at Wimbledon. Obviously, on the men's side, Alcaraz winning. But the fact that Medvedev got it done on grass against the number one player in the world, now 9-1 in quarterfinal matches and majors, is just remarkable. The guy just wins.
I love Medvedev. I've been a fan of his ever since his rant at the U.S. Open a few years back, right? When he said, I think it was the U.S. Open when he was talking about the fans and you know how they were booing him and stuff, and he was like, you basically you feed my emotion and my will to win. So that was pretty cool. Dude, I got to tell you a funny story about Medvedev. So I've told this before, but no one really cares around here because people don't, love tennis like I do and you do, and our fans that are watching do. So we were at the U.S. Open last year. It's my first time at a major. And again, I've only known the sport. That's where I got all my gear, by the way, my shirt and my hat. But so we're at U.S. Open, and we had Ash tickets like 6 to 10 rows back, something like that. Like they were expensive, but I'm like, I've never been to a Grand Slam. I love this sport. I'm obsessed. So we get the tickets. We go. And it's the night match. It was we got to see Ons play, Ons Jabeur play, and then the second match was Sebastian Baez versus Medvedev, the night match.
Okay.
And it was fun. And I was toying around with some bets or whatever, and I was putting some cash just because there was good value on Baez, right? Because he's super big underdog. I didn't bet him to win the match, but maybe win a set or whatever. And so every time like Baez would hit a winner or, win a point that was like a good point, I was yelling, "Vamos." And so it was, I yelled "Vamos" all the time. And there wasn't a ton of people yelling for Baez. And after the match, Medvedev kept saying, all these people yelling, "Vamos, vamos, vamos." Do you remember that? Dude, I was the guy. I was the guy.
You're the guy. No way.
100%.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to 100%. Watch the match. That was the match then. The night. Yeah. And I remember. Wow. No.
I had no. I probably I don't drink anymore, but this is last year I probably had about 20 honey deuces in me. And so I was doing the vamos as loud as I could, and it was funny. And then I got back to the hotel and I saw the clip on the on SportsCenter or whatever, and I was like, dude, that was me.
Wow. Well, hey, Medvedev, I think he'll know it's no hard feelings, and if anything,
no, and I love Medvedev. I do.
Yeah, he uses that energy to win. It's good. We need some variety in tennis too, and I think it's good to see even on the women's side. Wimbledon ended up being Krejcikova and Paulini, but I think it was good. I think it's nice to just have different variety, different types of players. And if anything, too, on both tours, Dustin, some late bloomers. It's not all the prodigies. There's some players that really hit their stride, late 20s, even into their 30s now.
Yeah, both the finalists for the women there were 28 years old, I believe, right? I mean,
yeah.
And how do you pronounce her name? For the life of me, is it you say
Krejcikova.
Krejcikova. Okay, so love her game. Oh my God, she was fearless. Was she not in this tournament? Yeah. Just really was bringing it. The match she had against Rybakina was so much fun to watch because she looked like she was dead in the water in that first set, and then just turned it on. And Rybakina, her serves weren't working like they typically are, and then all of a sudden she met fire with fire, and it's women's tennis. I've seen crazy, and not that they're any less than the men. I actually sometimes like women's tennis more than men's tennis, but women's tennis can go from here to here in a heartbeat. Yeah, especially with holding serve.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it really, when you think about the advantage that men's players can get on their serve, you take that out of it. I mean, the ball striking in all ways is more clean on the women's side. I still have vivid memories of I was spoiled at Indian Wells a few years ago. Got to see Venus and Serena play. Tail end of it, and Venus actually won that match. But they had a couple rallies where they were just it was like I could just equate it to boxing when they're just standing there and just throwing punches. They were literally just standing on the baseline firing, and it was, ground strokes like we see now with Sabalenka and some of these players, how hard they hit it.
But I'm
No,
telling you,
it's
from an aesthetic
exciting.
aesthetic standpoint, like watching women's tennis, it's
Mhm.
more to me like a pure game to watch because the way they strike the ball, they hit it so hard. There's a lot longer rallies, right? I mean, in women's tennis as opposed to men's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy both. I think they're equally enjoyable to watch, and I certainly respect both sexes when it comes to playing the game because I know how hard they both have to work equally hard to compete.
Well, I want to wind this down here, Dustin Fox. You've been a tremendous guest on Tennis Channel Inside In. I guess just a couple quick hitters before I let you go. One being, I know you have a couple little ones, kids. Do they play tennis? Are you trying to get them involved in the sport at an earlier age than yourself?
It's a great question, and the answer is yes. My son, like I said, is not really that into sports quite yet, but my daughter is very athletic. She's entering her freshman year of high school this fall, and she's been playing a little bit off and on the last couple of years, but we really kind of ramped it up this past year, where I got her a standing lesson every week with a pro here in town, and she loves it.
Mhm.
And she's getting so much better, man. I literally didn't hit with her for like 6 months and just let her go take lessons. And we just went on vacation a couple weeks back, and we took our rackets, and so we hit together every day. And I was so like blown away. Like she has so much better technique than I do, especially on her forehand, which because I have no forehand. But like she hits topspin, she hits the ball with pace. She's got a lot of power on her serve, which is pretty tremendous for a teenage girl. Like she actually aced me, like legit aced me like a few times. But now that was like 4 out of like 30 serves. But the point is she's got some power. So we'll see. I mean, she's playing freshman tennis, well, varsity tennis, I should say, this year. So yeah, I
Nice.
mean, it makes me happy. She just gets nervous as hell, like when I'm there watching her. So that's the hard part is like, I'm torn between wanting to go watch my daughter play, but I don't want to make her feel so much pressure where she can't play well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gonna have to hide out, find a way to
Yeah.
just walk in the shadows. Exciting stuff. Well, I want to let you go with this. Just thoughts on, I guess, the tennis season coming up. We're going to get to that North American hardcourt swing. We got the Olympics too. So, what are you looking forward to? I know you're going to be watching it all, but what are you looking forward to the most in the coming months for tennis?
Well, a couple things. I mean, we got a couple of tournaments in Ohio, right? We got the Cincy, and then we got Tennis in the Land in Cleveland,
Yeah,
which is the 250 event for the women. And if we've got a few good players coming. Lauren Davis is just from down the street. I know her boyfriend's family very well, and so that's cool. And so yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. The U.S. Open, I'm going to try to sneak away. Last year I had a college game because I broadcast for ESPN. I had a college game on Thursday that weekend, and so I went straight from my game up to New York City for 2 days to see U.S. Open. So we'll see. I'd like to get up there this year. Right, that Labor Day weekend would be nice to go like Saturday, Sunday, or even Sunday, Monday. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Little hardcore tennis here, and seeing these guys move around on the hard courts.
Yeah, the tennis season, especially the major season, is sectioned off, and we're about to hit this home stretch, which is
It
always
makes
a
me.
blast.
I'll say this,
Yeah.
and I know we got to go. It sucks to see grass court season end, and it sucks that it's so short because
Mhm.
grass it's just beautiful. And then
Yeah.
watching some of the Newport stuff, this is sort of the last hurrah, right? So I got the chance to play on grass twice in the
Okay.
last month, and there's like 2 grass courts in Ohio, and so there's one club that has them. Now it's not Wimbledon, but it gives you an idea of what it's like to play on a grass tennis court. I mean, it's pretty sweet, but it gave me a whole new perspective to watching tennis on grass on TV because I would say to myself, these are pros. Why are they not getting to that ball? Why are they not? That's an easy backhand. Like, come on,
Mhm.
that's just the easy approach. No, dude, the ball doesn't bounce on grass, man. I was blown away and like I have a whole new perspective. And I got to watch the last week of Wimbledon after I played on grass for the first time. And it was just like a whole new eye-opening experience and in respect, by the way, for these guys to be able to play at that level on such a interesting, unique surface.
Yeah, we know that's kind of built for how your game is, how you described it, getting in net. So if you can play on grass some more,
I had
and
a pro
figure
give
out.
us a pro gave us a lesson on the grass courts, and he said, "Guys, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Get to net as soon as possible." I was like, "Okay, yeah." I mean, basically, it was no matter where I hit it, whether it was a serve and volley or try to hit a corner shot and then just come in, and then you know what, you're going to get past half the time. Well, maybe half the time I'll hit a volley winner.
That's perfect. Well, Dustin Fox, this has been a blast. We'll have to do this again,
Absolutely.
dive into more of the tennis events. And yeah, I should be at the Tennis in the Land, so maybe we'll link up there. This is going to be a great time for the tennis calendar. Dustin Fox, former NFL player, works for WKRK 92.3 in Cleveland, Ohio, the afternoon drive show for them. If you're listening on the radio, calls games for ESPN, and a diehard tennis fan himself. Dustin Fox, thanks for coming on Tennis Channel Inside In.
Mitch, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.